Welcome to Beyond the Needle, the Aesthetics Business Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Ruse. I'm a former clinic manager turned digital marketing freelancer, and I've had the privilege of helping dozens of aesthetic practitioners across the UK and beyond grow their business. So I know firsthand just how challenging it can be to build a successful aesthetics practice in today's competitive market. Each week, I'm here to share real, actionable strategies and bring on expert guests to help you level up, attract more patients, and build a standout brand. Let's turn your passion into a thriving business together. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Needle podcast. And this week I'm talking all about the rise of AI and how to ensure that AI trusts you so that it's more likely to recommend you when people ask for recommendations for aesthetic practitioners and clinics in your local area. Now, a lot of aesthetic practitioners are still very much focused on social media, Google, and word of mouth because those are the channels that have worked for a long time. And of course they still matter, and they'll probably always matter. But something is changing in the background, and most clinics still aren't paying attention to it yet. So patients are no longer just finding clinics by typing a few words into Google or searching on Instagram. They are asking questions. They're turning to platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other AI tools to ask them where the best places are, who to trust, and which clinic is right for them. And that shift is really important because AI doesn't work like search engines do. It doesn't give people a long list of options and let them decide. It gives them an answer. And within that answer, it recommends a very small number of clinics that it believes are the best fit for that person. Everybody else is left out of the conversation entirely and isn't going to be part of that potential patient's decision process. Now, we know that AI is rapidly growing, so this is going to only become more and more common. And if AI tools become the new front door for your business and your clinic is not part of the answer that AI tool is providing, then you will feel the effect of that eventually. You will feel it in fewer inquiries coming in, you will feel it in bookings becoming less predictable, you will feel it in growth slowing down without a clear reason why. I do think that this is probably more of a problem for other industries. I use ChatGPT a lot to find new places to eat in my area. But if I was searching for an aesthetic practitioner, somebody who I was going to trust with my face, I'm not sure that I would trust an AI tool entirely to guide me to that person. Maybe eventually in the long run when AI is a lot more evolved, but at the moment I would still want to do my own research. What I might do is use it as a starting point. If I was, complete newbie into the industry, I was just starting my own treatment journey and I'd never explored treatments before, I didn't know any aesthetic practitioners, I didn't know any clinics in my area, I would probably use it as a starting tool to highlight some of the best people. But then I would still go and do my research from there and look at their Instagram, look at their before and after, get a feel for them as a person so that I can make sure that they were the right person for me. But like I say, AI would still probably form part of that journey in my research. So I think it's really, really important that you are paying attention to this as a clinic owner. And this isn't a future problem. It's not something to worry about next year or in a few years down the line. It's already happening. Patients are asking questions like, who is the best clinic for natural results in the area? Who is safe? Who specialises in specific concerns? And AI is making recommendations based on what it can understand, verify, and trust about your clinic. I talked about this a little bit last year when in just 1 week, I received a few inquiries for my own business, and all of those inquiries said that they had found me through ChatGPT search, which I'd never seen before. And now it's quite common, people are using it more and more to find service providers. So today I want to walk you through how AI actually decides who to recommend, because it doesn't do it randomly. It's looking for trust signals and clarity and consistency, and it's pulling information from your website, your content, your reviews, and what other people say about you, and it's building a picture of whether you are credible enough to suggest to somebody else. And it's important for you to understand exactly what AI looks at when it recommends clinics so that you can make sure the way you're presenting your clinic online reflects the standard of care that you actually deliver in real life. It's about building authority in a way that makes sense to humans and is legible to AI. When those two things line up, you will be more likely to be recommended. So, as always, grab a notebook and a pen and let's dive into it. But before we do, if you do enjoy this podcast, please remember to subscribe and leave me a little review. I really do appreciate it. Okay, let's get into it. So, for the past 20 years, businesses had to win over two parties: The customer and the search engine. You won over search engines through great content and SEO on your website, or you paid for ads. Now everything's changing as consumer reliance on ChatGPT and other large language models grows. Blue links, those clickable results you've been seeing on Google for the last 20 years, are slowly starting to die out a little bit. I don't know whether they'll die out permanently, maybe 50 years down the line, but I think we're a long way off from that. But those blue links, what you see appear when you search things on Google, those weren't built for you. They were built based on words that met an algorithm's demands. AI search, on the other hand, is very different because it understands context and intent. Consumers ask a question and they receive an answer specific to their needs, complete with an explanation and a clear next step. So it makes it very easy for people to find the right service provider for what they're looking for quicker and the right service provider for them. With Google, you could appear on page 2 and make progress towards page 1. With AI, you're either recommended as part of the answer or you're rejected. There's nothing in between anymore. So if you're not showing up on AI when people ask for recommendations for aesthetic practitioners in the local area, you have a major lead problem. You won't generate enough customers or revenue in the long run, and you'll be wondering what changed. In aesthetics, this matters even more because patients aren't searching for a simple product. They're asking questions like, who is the best clinic near me for certain skin concerns, who they can trust for injectables, or what clinic is the safest. These are high trust decisions, and people are increasingly comfortable letting AI guide them at the start of that journey. Like I mentioned earlier, it might not be how I make my entire decision. I might not get a recommendation from ChatGPT and immediately book a consultation with that person if I was looking to book Botox or filler, but I would maybe use it as a starting point, and then if it gave me 3 recommendations, I'd look at each of those 3 recommendations, and from their social media presence and their website, I would then decide which person is right for me. AI tools are already shaping these choices by deciding which clinics feel credible enough to recommend. They're pulling information from websites, reviews, your social media content, and online signals to decide who appears knowledgeable, transparent, and trustworthy. If your clinic is not clearly understood by AI, or if the signals around your expertise and credibility are weak or inconsistent, you will simply not show up in those answers. And that's why AI visibility really matters now. It's becoming one of the main gateways between a patient's question and their decision to book. And clinics who understand this early and start building trust in a way that AI can recognize will have significant advantage. Okay, so let's explore how AI decides who to recommend. One of the biggest misconceptions I see around AI is the idea that it works like Google. It really couldn't be further from that. AI isn't ranking clinics from 1 to 10 and deciding who sits at the top based on an algorithm. Instead, it's building a picture of each clinic and deciding whether that clinic is credible, relevant, and safe to recommend in response to a specific question. The easiest way to understand this is to think in terms of trust signals. AI looks at everything it can read about your clinic online and uses that information to decide whether or not you are a good answer. It's not looking for clever wording or hacks. It's looking for consistency, clarity, and proof that you really know what you're talking about as an expert in your field. I often think of this like a credit score. So every piece of content that you put out either adds to that score or takes away from it. So your website content, your reviews, your social media posts, your videos, any articles you've written, any press you've been mentioned in, and what other people say about you all feed into that picture. Accurate, clear, well-explained information strengthens trust, whereas inconsistencies or over-promising or lack of content weaken it. And it isn't just your website that AI is looking at. It reads everything it can access. It looks at your Google reviews, your Instagram captions, your educational posts, your testimonials, your press features, and how your clinic is described across different platforms. It also notices whether your messaging lines up. So if you're saying one thing on your website and something different on social media, that creates friction with AI, which in turn creates doubt. AI is essentially asking the same question a patient would, just at scale and much faster. Is this clinic consistent? Do they appear knowledgeable? Are their claims reasonable? Are other people confirming what they say? When all of those signals point in the same direction, you are far more likely to be recommended. But when they don't, you will start to get filtered out. So this is why AI visibility is not about one post or one page. It's about the overall digital footprint of your clinic and whether it tells a clear, trustworthy story when everything is viewed together as a whole. So just diving a little bit deeper into that, we're going to explore the 3 AI trust signals. So when you strip all of this back, AI trust signals fall into three main categories. And if you can remember these three, you can start to look at your clinic through a completely different lens and spot where the gaps are. Those categories are technical trust signals, authority-based trust signals, and brand-based trust signals. So starting with technical trust signals, AI needs structure to understand what it's looking at. And without that structure, it struggles to interpret even the best content. So schema is the best way to explain this. And look, I have to apologize here because there are a few words in here that you might hear me say and think, what is that? She's talking a different language, but I will try and explain everything as simply as I can and in less technical terms as I can as we go. But schema is the best way to explain this. In simple terms, schema is extra code added to your website that labels information so that AI can read it properly. Humans can look at a page and instantly understand what is a review, what is a question and answer, what's a service, what's an update, what's a blog post, etc., etc. But AI can't do that unless you explicitly tell it. So this is why displaying information visually on your website is not enough anymore. You might have beautiful testimonials, clear FAQs, in-depth treatment pages, and regularly updated content. But if that information isn't marked up properly behind the scenes, AI may not recognise it as credible or relevant. For clinics, there are a few key areas where this matters most. Review schema helps AI understand that your testimonials are real social proof and not just text on a page. FAQ schema allows AI to pull answers directly from your website when someone asks a relevant question. Content freshness schema shows when a page was last updated, which is critical in a medical and aesthetic setting where outdated information reduces trust. So if something on your website doesn't look relatively recent, AI is less likely to show that piece of content to somebody or recommend you on that content. And then the service or product schema, which helps AI clearly understand what you offer and who it is for. So if your website doesn't clearly explain what you do, who you serve, and why you are credible in a way that AI can understand, it will move on. So this isn't about having more content, but it's just having a clearer structure and making sure that your website is readable, not only to Google and to the people who are coming on your website and reading it, but also now to AI tools. Okay, then there's authority-based trust signals. So these signals help AI understand whether you're a serious, established, trustworthy option in your field. One of the strongest authority signals right now is pricing transparency. And what that means is explaining pricing in a way that feels responsible and realistic. So patients want to understand what drives cost, why prices vary, and what they are actually paying for when they choose one clinic over another. AI knows this because cost is almost always the first question in a buying journey. So there are numerous ways that you can integrate this topic into the content in your website. Obviously, you can have an overall price list. You can have from prices on each of your treatment pages, and you can introduce blog posts on your website that explore the pricing behind certain treatments, or why some clinics may appear more expensive than others, what actually goes into the cost of a treatment, and all of those kinds of things. Because the more you talk openly about pricing on your website, the more transparent and honest you appear to those AI tools. Don't just simply list prices, help people really understand the pricing in your industry. I read a story once in a marketing book about 10 years ago. I can't remember which marketing book it was. I want to say it was a book called They Ask, You Answer, which is an amazing book that I would recommend any business owner reads about content marketing and how to influence the behavior of your buyers to position yourself as an authority in your field. It's an amazing book, and I'm pretty sure it was in this book that I read a story about a business called the River Pools, a company who builds swimming pools in America. So very different industry to aesthetics, but still a great example to share. And when the housing market crashed back in 2008 and the swimming pool business was dying, the company started writing blogs answering every question customers were asking, including pricing questions. So they created content like, how much does a fiberglass pool cost, with real numbers and pricing ranges all broken down for people to clearly understand and read and take away. And their competitors thought this was crazy. Why would you give away pricing information so directly? And in aesthetics, some people might say the same, why give away pricing information so directly without having a consultation first? That's why we put from prices on our price lists. But this transparency made River Pools the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world and turns the company around. So, if I were an aesthetic practitioner, a few key things that I would have on my website is one, a pricing video. So, I wouldn't just have a price list, I would have a pricing video, like a video at the top of the price page where I walk people through pricing considerations, helping them understand the factors that influence costs in the industry. If I charged for consultations, and I recommend every aesthetic practitioner does, I would talk a little bit about why I charge for a consultation, what people get out of that consultation, and why it's important. This immediately establishes trust with people because when they can see you and hear your voice, instead of just looking at some words and numbers on a page, it instantly feels more honest. Like you would instantly be much more likely to trust that person and trust what they're saying and to understand why things are priced in a certain way or why I would be paying for a consultation and what I'm going to be getting out of it. So the more honest and open you can be on your website about your pricing, the better. And I would think beyond just having a price list, have that video on your price list page if you can, where you talk a little bit more in depth about what goes into your pricing and how treatment plans are curated and why you need to have that consultation and why that process is so important in order to get a bespoke personalized plan suited to you. But I would also be really open and honest about pricing throughout all of your treatment pages and write those blogs on it too, because the more you talk about it openly and honestly, the more AI is likely to trust you. And other authority signals include whether you're on Google page 1 for that particular thing that the person is asking about in ChatGPT. Now, this isn't something you can obviously just go and fix immediately, but that's important to note. And AI really cares about the accuracy of claims. So if you say in your Instagram bio, I am the top rated aesthetic doctor in Bristol, for example, AI doesn't like that unless you can actually back it up with proof. However, if you say I am a multi-award winning aesthetic practitioner based in Bristol, and then you source back to it, that's an authoritative outbound citation, which is, in non-technical terms, a major trust signal that helps prove the accuracy of your claim. So you can't just make claims anymore without backing them up. Every claim needs supporting evidence that AI can verify. And finally, there are brand-based trust signals, which are closely tied to reputation. So AI cares deeply about what other people have to say about you, not just what you say about yourself. And reviews are one of the most important signals here, but there is a nuance most clinics do not realise. So some AI tools cannot see all reviews on platforms like Google due to access limitations, and that means relying on external platforms alone is no longer enough. So having a robust reviews page on your website is really important. By taking reviews from multiple platforms and displaying them clearly, and I don't just mean taking a screenshot of your reviews and putting them onto a page, because AI won't be able to read that because it's just a photo with words on, but actually having a reviews page. And again, this doesn't need to be something that's necessarily like linked anywhere on your tabs at the top of your website or anything like that. It could just be a page in the background called, www.clinicname, whatever your clinic name is, .co.uk/reviews or something, but you don't actually have that page in the tabs at the top of your homepage or anything. It can just be an invisible kind of background page with multiple reviews from multiple platforms displayed clearly with proper structure and links back to the original sources. That gives AI a complete picture that it can trust. So reviews from Google, Facebook, and other platforms together create a much stronger signal than any single source on its own. Recognition and awards also play a major role here. So if you pay attention to AI-generated recommendations, you will often see awards or recognitions cited as part of the reasoning why the AI tool is recommending that person or that business to you. This means that your clinic should have a dedicated page that clearly outlines any awards, certifications, training accreditations, or professional recognition that you have received. So in aesthetics, recognition isn't just the trophies that you've won. It also includes advanced training, professional memberships, speaking engagements, and reputable features. Again, you can have this as an invisible page if you want, purely on the back end of your website, to help AI understand you better. It's all about making your credibility visible and easy to understand. When these signals are clear and consistent, AI can confidently recommend you. But when things are missing or they're not shown properly and not shown in a way that AI can understand, even the best clinics can be overlooked. So today, if you just start by strengthening one signal, you will already be ahead of most aesthetic clinics who aren't even thinking about this at all. Okay, so the next thing that I want to touch on is the power of consistency, because one of the biggest mistakes I see clinics making right now is treating each platform in isolation. Your website says one thing, your Instagram says another, your reviews describe you in another way, and then another social media platform introduces you again from a different angle. To a human, that might just feel like tone or context, but to AI, it creates uncertainty. Because AI cross checks information. It doesn't just take your word for it in one place and stop there. It looks across your website, all of your social media platforms, your reviews, your press mentions, and any other digital footprint it can find. And it tries to build a consistent picture of who you are, what you do, and who you're for. So when those messages align across all of your platforms and everywhere that you're visible on the internet, trust builds. But when they don't, AI feels uncertain about you. So this is why clear positioning matters more than ever. You need to be able to describe your clinic in a simple, consistent way wherever someone or something encounters you. The language you use to talk about yourself, your team, your services shouldn't change depending on the platform. The way you explain what you specialise in, who you treat, and how you work should feel familiar no matter where somebody finds you. This isn't necessarily about sounding robotic or copying and pasting the same sentences about your clinic everywhere you are. It's just about being clear on what you stand for and communicating it in a very steady, honest way. So, for example, not saying that you offer skin, wellness, aesthetics, and body treatments on your website, but then only talking about aesthetics and skin on your social media. It's just about making sure that who you are and the services that you offer are consistent across your platforms, because then it doesn't create uncertainty for AI tools when they're learning about your business and looking at your digital footprint as a whole. Okay, so some of you are probably listening to this and thinking, right, how can I see whether AI is going to recommend me if I ask it who the best clinic is in my local area? I did a post about AI search last year on my Instagram, and a lot of people were sending me screenshots afterwards of themselves going on ChatGPT and asking that very question, and then seeing whether they were listed in the response. So you might be doing that right now. You might have already done it as you've been listening to this podcast. And I would actually recommend testing whether AI recommends your clinic. I think it's really important, because that way, if you're not being recommended, you can put things in place now to improve that. And it's not just about asking AI tools who the best clinic in your local area is. It's also asking it different questions like, who's the go-to person for gels in my area? You know, thinking about all of those different questions that people ask and people search into Google, and repeating them in those AI search platforms to see whether or not you're coming up there too. So when you're testing this, you need to test from a neutral position. If you use your own ChatGPT account or an AI tool that you use regularly, it's already learned about you. It knows your interests, your business, and in some cases, it will be biased towards mentioning you. What you want is a clean view, as close as possible to what a potential patient would see. So this means using a logged out browser, a new account, or turning off personalization where the platform allows it. If it was me, I would just use a completely new account. I'd log out and just start fresh, and I might even use an incognito window on my Google Chrome. Once you've done that, ask the kinds of questions your patients would actually ask. Questions like, who is the best clinic near me for skin concerns? Who can I trust for injectables? Or what clinic is known for safe and natural results in my area? Who's the best aesthetic practitioner in my area? Who's the top rated aesthetic practitioner in my area? Which clinics get the best reviews in my area? Who is the go-to aesthetic practitioner or clinic for treating pigmentation in my area? Pay attention to whether or not your clinic is mentioned at all, which clinics are being recommended instead, and how the AI explains its choices. It's important to notice what sources the AI references. So does it mention reviews, articles, awards, websites, or social platforms? This tells you exactly which trust signals it's relying on and where your gaps might be. So if AI keeps citing reviews and you don't have strong review presence on your own site, that is a clear action point. If it references articles or guides and you have very little educational content on your website, that matters too. And don't just stop at one platform. I think, we all know about ChatGPT, but that's not the only one out there. Some people use Google Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot. Each one has slightly different data sources and behaviours. So testing across a few gives you a much clearer picture of how visible and credible your clinic really is in the AI landscape. There are tools that automate this process and make it easier to track recommendations across platforms, and they can be helpful if you want a deeper audit. But the most important thing isn't the tool, it's the awareness, because once you see how AI is describing your clinic, or whether it's ignoring it altogether, you can take practical steps to strengthen the signals that matter and close the gaps that are holding you back. So if you're not being recommended at all, or if you're maybe being recommended third on list, or not as high up as you wish to be, think about whether you can improve your pricing content on your website, and I guarantee you probably can. Implementing schema markup, building more comparison content, or addressing specific customer questions directly on an FAQs page on your website, for example. Adding that reviews page to your website and that awards and recognitions page to your website, so in a way that AI can read and understand. And that kind of feeds into the final section of this episode, where I wanted to touch on how to future-proof your clinic in an AI-driven world. Another thing that you need to add to your never-ending to-do list, but it's not about learning complicated systems or trying to outsmart technology. Really, all it's about is doing what you're already doing, but building on it and maybe doing it a slightly different way that's more optimized for AI. Be clear about who you are, what you specialize in, and what you stand for. Make sure your language is consistent across your website, your social platforms, your reviews, and any press or features. Avoid exaggerated claims and focus instead on accuracy, transparency, and evidence. This protects your reputation while also building authority with AI. And it also means investing in foundations, so a well-structured website, a clear explanation of services, visible reviews, and thoughtful content that answers real patient questions will always outperform everything else. These are the assets that last and will help to compound those trust signals with the AI tools. Like I say, look at where you can improve. Add that pricing content to your website, add that reviews page, add that awards and recognitions page, implement that schema markup, make sure that you're consistently adding new content to your website and that your social media also reflects that too. You're educational in your content on social media, you're honest, you're trustworthy, you're showcasing social proof. When you focus on building trust properly now, you create foundations that last. And in the long run, AI can actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in the background. That is how you ensure your clinic doesn't fade into the noise, but stays visible, credible, and recommended as the way people find and choose care continues to evolve. I really hope this episode has been helpful. If you've enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe and please do leave me a review. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.